A female billionaire's baby cried nonstop on the plane, until a poor single dad did the unthinkable. 35,000 feet above the Atlantic. First-class galley. A man sits zip-tied to a jump seat, wrists raw against the plastic restraints. He's wearing a thrift store blazer 2 sizes too large. His face is calm. Too calm for someone being treated like a criminal. The baby's screams fill the cabin. Purple-faced, erratic breathing. The pilot's voice crackles over the intercom. Emergency landing imminent. 200 passengers about to be stranded in Newfoundland because one infant won't stop crying. The billionaire paces in her suite, phone pressed to her ear, barking orders at someone who can't help her. 3 nannies stand useless. Fellow passengers glare through the gaps in the divider. This is her worst nightmare. Loss of control. Public humiliation. Weakness on display. The air marshal stands over the restrained man, hand on holster. "Sir, remain silent." The man doesn't respond. His eyes are closed. His chest rises and falls in a rhythm that doesn't match panic. Through the gap in the curtain, a 7-year-old girl watches, tears streaming down her face. She mouths something. The man sees her, nods once. Then he does the unthinkable. He starts singing. Hands bound. No permission. A lullaby in a language most of the cabin doesn't recognize. His voice cuts through the chaos like a blade through silk. The baby's screams falter. The cabin goes silent. Not obeying. Listening. Involuntarily. An elderly passenger in seat 3A stands, phone trembling in his hand. His face has gone white. He knows that voice. He knows that impossible technique. And he knows the man everyone thinks is a warehouse worker is actually a ghost. The video he's recording is about to destroy everything. If you believe that true power doesn't need a title, and that the people society overlooks are often the ones who save us, stay with this story. Because what happens next will shatter a billionaire's empire and prove that the quietest voices sometimes carry the most devastating truths. Before we begin, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated because of how you looked? Drop your story below. But to understand how a single song could bring a titan to her knees, we need to rewind 12 hours to a Vienna airport departure lounge, where a man with calloused hands and a secret was just trying to get his daughter home. 12 hours earlier, Vienna International Airport smelled like burnt coffee and floor cleaner. Marcus Webb stood at the check-in counter, a voucher printed on thin paper clutched in his calloused hand. The ticket agent barely looked at him. Just another tired traveler in a coat 2 sizes too big. Beside him, Lily pressed her face against the stuffed rabbit she'd named Herr Hops. Her dark curls needed brushing. Marcus made a mental note to fix that before they boarded. "Boarding passes," the agent said. Marcus slid the voucher across the counter. The agent scanned it. Her eyebrows rose slightly. "Economy. Seats 42, B and C." "Thank you." He took the passes, guided Lily away from the counter with a hand on her shoulder. Their single duffel bag hung from his other arm. Everything they'd brought to Vienna fit inside it. They walked toward security. Lily looked up at him. "Daddy, can Mommy see us from heaven?" Marcus's throat tightened. He kept walking. "I don't know, sweetheart." "Do you think she knows we visited her family?" "I think she'd be happy we did." Lily seemed to accept this. She hugged Herr Hops tighter. They passed through security without incident. Marcus kept his head down, answered questions in as few words as possible. The guards waved them through. Gate 34 was at the far end of the terminal. Marcus checked their boarding time. 2 hours. He counted the euros in his wallet. Enough for a snack. maybe 2 if they shared. "You hungry?" he asked. Lily nodded. They found a small kiosk selling pastries. Marcus bought 1 apple strudel and 2 napkins. They sat on a bench near the gate. Lily broke the pastry in half without being asked. She handed him the larger piece. "You need it more," she said. Marcus took it. He didn't argue. Around them, the terminal hummed with movement. Business travelers in pressed suits. Families with too much luggage. A group of teenagers laughing too loud. No one looked at the man in the thrift store blazer and the little girl with the stuffed rabbit. That was how Marcus preferred it. Lily pulled out her notebook. She always carried it, drew in it when she was nervous, or bored, or thinking. Marcus watched her sketch something with careful, deliberate strokes. "What are you drawing?" he asked. "A bird." She held it up. The drawing was surprisingly detailed for a 7-year-old. Long tail feathers, delicate wings. "What kind of bird?" Marcus said. Lily frowned. "I don't know. I just made it up." Marcus leaned closer. His breath caught. The proportions, the markings. He recognized it immediately. "It's a nightingale," he said. Lily's eyes widened. "How do you know?" Marcus blinked, caught himself. He cleared his throat. "I saw one once, a long time ago." "Where?" "Doesn't matter." He stood, brushed crumbs from his lap. "We should get closer to the gate." Lily closed her notebook. She didn't push. She'd learned not to. They boarded last. Marcus always waited until the final boarding call. Fewer people watching. Less chance of drawing attention. They shuffled down the narrow aisle. Economy seats stretched endlessly ahead. 42B and 42C. Window and middle. Marcus let Lily take the window. He squeezed into the middle seat. A businessman in 42A didn't look up from his laptop. Marcus helped Lily with her seatbelt, tucked Herr Hops between her and the wall. She pressed her nose to the window. "I can see the whole airport," she whispered. "Don't lean too hard on the glass." The plane began to fill. Overhead, bins slammed shut. Flight attendants moved through the cabin with tight smiles. Marcus pulled his seatbelt low across his lap, tightened it until it hurt. Lily's hand found his. "I don't like takeoff," she said. "I know." "Will you hum?" Marcus glanced around. The businessman was still absorbed in his screen. The woman across the aisle had headphones in. No one was paying attention. He began to hum, softly. So softly only Lily could hear. A melody his grandmother used to sing when he couldn't sleep. Viennese. Older than memory. Lily's grip on his hand relaxed. Her breathing slowed. The plane pushed back from the gate. The engines roared to life. Marcus kept humming, kept his eyes forward, kept himself small. The aircraft taxied, turned, lined up on the runway. Then the acceleration, the tilt, the moment when the wheels left the ground and there was nothing below them but air. Lily squeezed his hand again. Marcus squeezed back. The plane climbed. Vienna fell away beneath them. Marcus closed his eyes. For just a moment, his lips moved, forming words in German. A prayer, a promise. Something he'd whispered every day for 9 years. Lily noticed. "Daddy, what are you saying?" Marcus opened his eyes, looked at his daughter. She was watching him with that expression she got sometimes, the one that saw too much. He smiled, the kind of smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just something my grandmother taught me." 15 rows ahead of Marcus Webb, in the enclosed first-class suite that cost more than his monthly rent, Victoria Ashford was losing control. Her son had been crying for 40 minutes. The sound filled the cabin, high-pitched, relentless. The kind of crying that made passengers shift in their seats and reach for headphones. Victoria sat rigid in her leather chair, phone in one hand, the other gripping the armrest hard enough to hurt. 3 nannies rotated through the small space. The first tried rocking. Gentle sways. Hushed words. The baby screamed louder. The second offered a bottle. He turned his face away. The third changed his diaper with practiced efficiency. Nothing changed. Victoria's assistant hovered near the suite entrance, a young woman in a pressed blazer. Her name was something forgettable. Sarah, or Susan, or Sam. Ms. Ashford, should I? Not now. Victoria's eyes stayed on her phone. Emails flooded in. Her board meeting was scheduled for the moment they landed. Hostile questions about her latest acquisition. Concerns about her leadership. She needed to be sharp, prepared. Instead, she was trapped at 35,000 feet with a screaming infant and a cabin full of witnesses. The lead nanny stepped forward. Older woman. 20 years of experience listed on her resume. Ms. Ashford, perhaps if we— You've had 40 minutes, Victoria snapped. Figure it out. The nanny's face tightened. She tried a white noise app. The sound of ocean waves played from a phone speaker. The baby screamed through it. A flight attendant appeared at the suite entrance. Professional smile, calm voice. Ma'am, we're receiving complaints from other passengers. Is there anything we can do to assist? Victoria didn't look up from her phone. We're handling it. Of course, if you need. We're handling it. The flight attendant retreated. Victoria's jaw locked. Her fingers flew across her phone screen. She pulled up the lead nanny's contact, typed out a text. You're fired. Effective immediately. Incompetent. She hit send. The nanny's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, closed it. Then she stepped back, hands shaking. The second nanny took over. Younger. Less experienced. She lifted the baby from the bassinet with trembling hands, tried rocking him the way the first nanny had. The baby arched his back, screamed harder. Victoria's phone buzzed. Email from her CFO subject line, Board concerns your judgment. Her knuckles went white. The man in seat 2A pressed his call button. A flight attendant hurried over. He gestured toward Victoria's suite. His voice carried. I paid $8,000 for this seat. I can't work like this. Sir, I apologize. We're doing everything. Move me. Business class. Anywhere. I'm afraid the flight is fully booked. The woman in 3D joined in. Designer sunglasses pushed up on her head. Expensive watch catching the overhead light. This is unacceptable. How long is this going to continue? Victoria felt their eyes on her. Judging. Assessing. Watching the billionaire CEO who couldn't control her own child. She stared at her phone, pretended not to hear. The baby's cries grew sharper, more desperate. A different flight attendant approached. Older. Kind eyes. Ma'am, there's a pediatrician in business class. He's offered to— No. I'm sorry? No. Victoria's voice was ice. We don't need outside help. The flight attendant hesitated. Ma'am, your son seems— I said no. Victoria looked up, met the flight attendant's eyes. The woman saw something there that made her step back. Of course. Let me know if you change your mind. Victoria returned to her phone. Her inbox was chaos. Investors asking questions. Media requests about her latest interview. A message from her ex-husband's lawyer. She ignored all of it. Typed a response to her CFO. My judgment built a billion-dollar empire. The board can trust it or find a new CEO. She hit send. Her hand shook. The second nanny was crying now. Silent tears running down her face as she rocked the screaming infant. The assistant touched her shoulder gently, whispered something. The nanny nodded. Victoria's carefully constructed image was crumbling. The articles she'd placed in Forbes and Fortune, the interviews where she talked about work-life balance, the photo shoots with her son looking peaceful in her arms, all of it built on a foundation that was shattering in real time. She was Victoria Ashford. She commanded boardrooms. She stared down hostile takeovers. She'd built an empire from nothing. And she couldn't make her own child stop crying. The baby's screams intensified. His face was red, his little fists clenched. The nanny looked at Victoria with desperation in her eyes. Victoria looked away. The sound penetrated the cabin divider. Passengers in business class shifted uncomfortably. Someone muttered something about parenting. Another person laughed. In economy, the crying was muffled but persistent. Passengers groaned. A man in 38D pulled on noise-canceling headphones. A woman in 40A covered her ears. Marcus Webb sat perfectly still in seat 42C. He wasn't covering his ears, wasn't grimacing. He was listening, head tilted slightly to the left. His eyes were closed, his breathing slow and measured. Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, that baby sounds really sad." Marcus opened his eyes, looked at his daughter. "Yes," he said quietly. "He does." But Marcus wasn't just hearing sadness. He was hearing something else. A pattern in the cry, a rhythm, the specific pitch and cadence that meant something any parent would recognize if they knew what to listen for. And Marcus Webb, who had once stood on the world's greatest stages, who had been trained by masters to hear the smallest variations in sound, heard exactly what that baby needed. The baby had been screaming for 2 hours when the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Reynolds. We're experiencing a medical situation in the cabin. If this cannot be resolved within the next 30 minutes, we will be diverting to Newfoundland for an emergency landing." Passengers shifted in their seats, groaned. A woman in 39B muttered something about missing her connection. The man in 38D pulled his headphones tighter. Marcus Webb sat perfectly still in 42C. His eyes were closed, his breathing slow and measured. Lily watched him from the window seat, hair hops clutched to her chest. "Daddy?" Marcus opened his eyes, looked at his daughter. "That baby sounds really sad," she whispered. "I know. Can someone help him?" Marcus didn't answer. His hands rested on his knees, his fingers pressed into the worn fabric of his cheap blazer. He listened to the crying, the pattern, the pitch, the desperate rhythm that told him exactly what that child needed. He unbuckled his seatbelt. Lily's hand shot out, grabbed his arm. "Daddy, where are you going?" Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. Those dark curls like her mother's, those eyes that saw too much. He leaned close, whispered, "I can help." "But what if—" "I can help," he said again. Lily's grip tightened on his arm. Her eyes were wide, terrified. But she nodded. Marcus stood, stepped into the aisle. The businessman in 42A didn't look up from his laptop. Marcus moved forward, slow, deliberate, not drawing attention. The first-class curtain hung at the front of the economy cabin. A barrier. Marcus reached it. A flight attendant appeared. Young woman. Name tag read Sarah. She stepped into his path. "Sir, you can't enter first class." Marcus's voice was quiet, gentle. "The baby needs help. I know what to do." Sarah's eyebrows rose. She looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the thrift store blazer, the calloused hands, the gray hair at his temples. But she also saw something else. Something in his eyes. A certainty that made her hesitate. Please, Marcus said. Sarah stepped aside. Marcus passed through the curtain into the galley. The screaming was louder here, immediate. The baby's cries filled the small space like a physical presence. 2 flight attendants stood by the coffee station, faces tight with stress. Marcus moved toward the first-class cabin entrance. Victoria Ashford saw him coming. She stood in the doorway of her suite, phone in one hand, the other gripping the frame. Her designer suit was wrinkled, her perfectly styled hair coming loose. And there, approaching her chaos, was this man. Rumpled, economy class, audacious. Who the hell are you? Marcus stopped, kept his voice low. I can help your son. Victoria's face went red. Security! She looked past Marcus, saw a man in a dark suit moving through the galley. Officer Chen, the air marshal. Victoria pointed at Marcus. This man just forced his way into first class. I want him removed. Officer Chen approached, hand near his belt, professional, calm. Sir, I need you to return to your seat. Marcus didn't move, didn't raise his voice, just looked at Victoria. Your son needs security now! Victoria's voice was sharp, loud, performing for the passengers watching from their seats. Officer Chen took Marcus's arm, firm but not rough. Sir, let's not make this difficult. Marcus didn't resist. He let Officer Chen guide him to the side, to a small jump seat built into the galley wall. Another officer appeared, a woman. They moved with practiced efficiency, pulled Marcus's arms behind his back. The plastic zip tie tightened around his wrists, cut into his skin. Passengers craned their necks to see. Phones came out, started recording. Lily appeared at the curtain gap, her face pale, tears streaming down her cheeks. She watched them restrain her father like a criminal, watched him sink into the jump seat, hands bound behind him. Marcus saw her, met her eyes across the galley, shook his head gently. The gesture said everything. It's okay, sweetheart. Don't be afraid. But Lily was afraid. Her fingers dug into Herr Hops's worn fur. A flight attendant tried to guide her back to economy. Lily didn't move. Victoria stepped forward, looked down at Marcus in the jump seat. Her phone buzzed in her hand. More emails, more problems. And now this man who dared approach her, who thought he could fix what her expensive nannies couldn't. She leaned close, voice dripping with contempt. A warehouse worker is going to solve what my $200 an hour nanny couldn't? Get him off my plane. The pilot's voice returned. Sharper this time, more urgent. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now initiating emergency diversion procedures to Gander, Newfoundland. Medical personnel will meet us on the ground. All passengers must remain seated. The baby's face had turned purple. His breathing came in short, erratic gasps between screams. The second nanny held him, tears streaming down her face, looking at Victoria with desperation. Victoria stood frozen, phone in one hand, the other gripping the suite divider. 200 passengers about to be stranded because her son wouldn't stop crying. The humiliation was suffocating. Officer Chen stood beside Marcus in the galley, hand still resting near his belt. Professional, alert. Marcus sat perfectly still in the jump seat, wrists bound behind his back. The plastic zip tie had cut into his skin. Blood seeped around the edges. He closed his eyes, took a slow breath. Then he began to sing. From the jump seat, hands still bound, without permission, without being released. Not loudly. He didn't shout over the chaos. His voice emerged at conversational volume. But there was something in it. A purity. A crystalline clarity that cut through the engine noise, through the baby's wails, through every other sound in the cabin. A Viennese lullaby, centuries old, in flawless German. The melody was achingly beautiful. The first-class cabin fell silent, not because anyone commanded it, not because passengers chose to listen. The silence was involuntary, instinctive, like the moment before thunder when the air itself holds its breath. Passengers stopped mid-conversation. A man in 2B lowered his laptop screen. The woman in 3D pulled off her headphones. Flight attendants froze in the aisle. Victoria's mouth opened. She meant to scream at him to stop, to demand Officer Chen remove this man from her plane. But no sound came out. The baby's cries faltered, softened. Marcus continued. His voice never wavered, despite the plastic restraints cutting deeper into his wrists. He added something then, harmonic layers, overtones that seemed impossible from a single human throat. It sounded like two voices singing simultaneously. One melody weaving through another in perfect, impossible harmony. The technique had a name. Obertonsingen. Overtone singing. A skill so rare, so difficult, that only a handful of people in the world could do it. The baby turned his head toward the sound. His screams quieted, his breathing steadied, the purple drained from his face. 90 seconds. The infant was calm. Marcus sang on. The lullaby wrapped around the cabin like a physical presence. Gentle, ancient. A melody that had soothed children for hundreds of years before anyone on this plane was born. 3 minutes. The baby's eyes closed, his tiny fists unclenched. He slept. The cabin was utterly still. Marcus stopped singing. He opened his eyes, looked at Victoria, not with triumph, not with satisfaction, just exhaustion. The quiet, bone-deep weariness of a man who had just sacrificed everything he'd spent 9 years protecting. The silence held for 5 seconds. 10. Then an elderly man in seat 3A stood. His hands trembled. His phone was pointed at Marcus. Recording. He'd been recording the entire time. "Mein Gott," the old man whispered. His voice shook. "I just recorded that voice, that Obertonsingen technique." He looked at Marcus, really looked at him. His eyes widened. "There is only one man alive who can do that. You are Marcus Weissman." The name detonated. Passengers grabbed their phones, typed frantically. Google searches flooded the aircraft's Wi-Fi. Results loaded. Faces went pale. Marcus Weissman, the Vienna choir boy who became the youngest principal tenor at the Staatsoper at age 24. The prodigy. The legend. The voice the New York Times called touched by God. The man who signed a 10-year contract with La Scala and walked away after a single performance. The ghost. He vanished 9 years ago. Days after his wife died, the opera world mourned him as lost. No one knew where he went. No one knew if he was even alive. And here he was, zip-tied in an airplane galley, wearing a thrift store blazer, bleeding from his wrists. Officer Chen stood frozen. His training hadn't prepared him for this. He pulled a knife from his belt, cut the restraints. The plastic fell away. Marcus brought his hands forward slowly, rubbed his wrists where the blood had pooled. "I'm sorry," Officer Chen muttered. Marcus didn't respond. Victoria stared at her phone. The screen lit up with notifications. Her social media feeds were exploding. Passengers were posting, uploading. The video was already spreading. She clicked on one, watched 30 seconds. Her stomach dropped. The headline was already forming. "Billionaire has warehouse worker arrested. Then he sings and saves her baby." The framing was devastating. The optics were catastrophic. She hadn't just rejected his help. She'd had him bound, humiliated, treated like a criminal, and he'd saved her son anyway. From a jump seat. with his hands tied behind his back, while she stood there doing nothing. Victoria's assistant appeared at her elbow, phone out, face pale. "Ms. Ashford, you need to see this." Victoria swiped through the feeds. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. The video was everywhere. The comments were brutal. "This is what happens when billionaires think they're better than everyone." She had him arrested for trying to help. That man is a literal angel, and she treated him like garbage. Her PR director's text came through. 3 words. "We have a serious problem." Victoria looked up. Marcus was standing now. Officer Chen had stepped back. Lily had pushed through the curtain. She ran to her father, threw her arms around his waist, buried her face in his cheap blazer. Marcus's hands rested gently on her shoulders. He whispered something in German. Lily nodded. Passengers were staring. Phones out, recording everything. Victoria's hands shook. The video counter on her screen kept climbing. 100,000 views. 200,000. 500,000. The plane began its descent into Newfoundland. The emergency landing was still happening. The baby slept peacefully in the nanny's arms. And Victoria Ashford, who had commanded boardrooms across 3 continents, who had built an empire worth billions, stood in her first-class suite and watched her carefully constructed world begin to crumble in real time. The view counter hit 1 million before the wheels touched the ground. The plane touched down at JFK 6 hours later than scheduled. The emergency landing in Newfoundland had delayed everything. Passengers filed off slowly, exhausted, irritable. Phones buzzing back to life as they reconnected to cell service. Marcus held Lily's hand, guided her through the jet bridge, kept his head down. Other passengers stared. Some took pictures. A woman in a business suit whispered to her companion. Marcus heard the words, "That's him," and kept walking. Customs moved quickly. The agent barely glanced at their passports. Marcus collected their single duffel from baggage claim. The terminal smelled like recycled air and burnt coffee. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Then he saw them. Reporters. A dozen at least. Cameras. Microphones. Clustered near the exit doors. Someone had leaked the passenger manifest. Marcus stopped. His grip on Lily's hand tightened. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was small. "Stay close to me." He moved toward the exit. The reporters spotted him, surged forward. "Mr. Webb! Mr. Weissman! Can you comment on the video? Is it true you're Marcus Wiseman? Why did you approach the baby without permission?" Marcus didn't answer. He pulled Lily closer, shielded her with his body, pushed through the crowd toward the taxi stand. Cameras flashed. Questions overlapped into noise. A reporter thrust a phone in his face. The video was playing. Marcus singing. The baby calming. 4 million views. The counter kept climbing. Marcus reached the curb. A taxi pulled up. He opened the door, lifted Lily inside, slid in beside her, shut the door. "Where to?" the driver asked. Marcus gave his address in Bed-Stuy. The taxi pulled away. Through the rear window, he saw reporters still filming, still shouting questions into the night. Lily pressed herself against his side. Her hops clutched tight. "Why were they yelling at you?" "They just want a story, sweetheart." "But you helped that baby." "I know." "So why are they mad?" Marcus didn't have an answer. Across the city, in the private terminal reserved for high-value passengers, Victoria Ashford walked past a line of black SUVs. Her security team surrounded her. Her assistant hurried beside her. Phone pressed to her ear. A single reporter had found her. Shouted a question from behind the security barrier. "Ms. Ashford, do you regret having Marcus Webb detained?" Victoria didn't turn, didn't slow. Climbed into the lead SUV. The door shut. The convoy pulled away. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Text messages flooded in. Her PR director, her lawyer, board members, investors. Everyone wanted answers she didn't have. She opened her email. Her PR team had sent 3 options. All of them bad. Option 1, apologize. Admit she overreacted. Take responsibility. The narrative would shift from cruel billionaire to humbled mother, but it would make her look weak. And weakness was death in her world. Option 2, ignore it. Let the story die on its own. The PR team flagged this as high risk. The video had too much momentum. Silence would look like guilt. Option 3, reframe the narrative. Position Marcus as unstable. Question his motives. Point out that he bypassed security protocols. Imply he was dangerous. Make him the villain. Victoria read option 3 twice. Her jaw clenched. Her publicist had already drafted the talking points. She typed a single word in response. Execute. Within an hour, the first stories appeared. Anonymous sources close to the investigation. Questions raised about Marcus's mental health. References to his wife's death. Implications that his grief had made him obsessive, unstable. A man who approached other people's children without permission. The headlines shifted. Man with PTSD from grief bypasses security to access infant. Questions raised about unqualified intervention on flight. Experts warn against untrained individuals handling babies in crisis. Victoria's legal team began digging. Custody arrangements, financial records, anything vulnerable, anything they could use. Marcus's Bed-Stuy studio was dark when they arrived. One room, a kitchenette in the corner, a mattress on the floor for Lily, a futon for Marcus. The walls were thin, the radiator clanked. But it was home. Marcus unlocked the door, turned on the single overhead light. The bulb flickered, steadied. Lily climbed onto her mattress, still clutching hair hops. She looked at Marcus with those eyes that saw too much. "Daddy, why was that lady so mean to you?" Marcus sat on the edge of her mattress, brushed hair from her forehead. She was scared. People do strange things when they're scared. But you were just trying to help. I know, Liebchen. Then why did she call the policeman? Marcus's throat tightened. He didn't have an answer that would make sense to a 7-year-old. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. Lily seemed to accept this. She curled on her side. Marcus pulled the thin blanket over her, hummed softly until her breathing slowed. Until she slept. His phone rang. Marcus looked at the screen. His warehouse manager, calling at 11 at night. That was never good. He answered quietly, moved to the kitchenette, stood by the window overlooking the street. Marcus, I'm sorry to call so late. The manager's voice was tight, uncomfortable. What is it? Corporate saw the news, the video. They're concerned about media attention, about disruption to operations. Marcus's chest went cold. They're letting me go. I'm sorry. It's effective immediately. I fought for you, I really did. But I understand. Your final check will be mailed. If you need a reference, thank you. Marcus ended the call, stood in the dark, stared out at the empty street below. 9 years of invisibility. 9 years of keeping his head down, working double shifts, avoiding attention, building a quiet, safe life for his daughter. All of it gone. He looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully, unaware that their world was crumbling. His phone buzzed, a notification, an email. Marcus opened it, read the first line. His hands went numb. It was from his landlord. The man had seen the news, seen the reporters. He was concerned about disruption, about the building's reputation, about other tenants. Marcus was being evicted. 30 days to vacate. He set the phone down, sat on the futon, put his head in his hands. 9 years of hiding. 9 years of silence. And now, because he'd sung a lullaby to a crying baby, everything he'd built was being torn apart. His phone buzzed again. Another notification. Then another. The story was spreading. The smear campaign was working. His name, both of them, Webb and Wiseman, was everywhere. And Victoria Ashford, with her billion-dollar empire and her team of lawyers and publicists, had just declared war. Marcus looked at the eviction notice on his phone screen. 30 days. He had 30 days to find a new job, a new apartment, and a way to protect his daughter from the storm that was coming. The only problem was that everywhere he looked, all he could see were the ruins of the life he'd spent 9 years trying to build. The headlines got worse. Day 2. Marcus sat at his kitchen table, laptop open, job application on the screen. The company was a small delivery service, no benefits, minimum wage. He clicked submit. The automated response came 30 minutes later. We've decided to pursue other candidates. They'd Googled him. Marcus closed the laptop, opened it again, tried another application, then another. By the end of the day, he'd sent out 12. He got 3 rejections immediately. The others never responded. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Experts question mental health of man who approached infant on flight. Marcus read the article. Anonymous sources. A psychiatrist who'd never met him speculating about PTSD, about obsession with babies stemming from the loss of his unborn child, about how grief could make people behave erratically. The article mentioned Anna, his wife, the car accident, the pregnancy. Marcus's hands shook. He set the phone down. Lily was at school. The apartment was silent except for the radiator's clank. Marcus stood, walked to the window, stared down at the street. A man with a camera stood across from his building, waiting. Day 3. Marcus walked Lily to school. Reporters were waiting outside the building. Cameras. Questions shouted from the sidewalk. Marcus held Lily's hand tight, kept his head down, said nothing. Inside the school, other parents stared, whispered. A woman pulled her daughter closer when Marcus passed. He felt their eyes on his back as he signed Lily in. The teacher smiled, tight, professional. Mr. Webb. Good morning. Morning. He kissed Lily's forehead, watched her walk to her classroom. She looked back once, waved. He waved back. On his way out, he heard voices in the hallway. Parents clustered near the principal's office. He's unstable, that's what the article said. I don't want him near my kids. Someone should talk to the principal. Marcus kept walking. Day 4. The phone call came at noon. The principal. Her voice was careful, measured. Mr. Webb, would you be able to come in this afternoon? There's something we need to discuss. Marcus sat in her office an hour later. The principal was a woman in her 50s, kind eyes, but her hands were folded on her desk in a way that told him this wouldn't be good. Mr. Webb, I want you to know that I have tremendous respect for what you did on that flight. Marcus said nothing. However, we've received concerns from some parents about the media attention, about reporters outside the school, and about... She paused. About some of the things being reported in the news? I haven't done anything wrong. I know that. But perception matters. And right now, some parents are concerned about having you on school grounds during pickup and drop-off. Marcus's jaw tightened. What are you saying? I'm suggesting that perhaps Lily might be more comfortable staying home for a few days, until the media attention dies down, just to give everyone some space. You're asking me to keep my daughter out of school. I'm suggesting it might be easier for everyone. Marcus stood. She hasn't missed a day all year. Mr. Webb, is there anything else? The principal's face softened. I'm sorry. I really am. Marcus left the office, walked down the empty hallway. The dismissal bell hadn't rung yet. He waited outside Lily's classroom. When she came out, she saw his face and knew something was wrong. They walked home in silence. Reporters followed them for 2 blocks before giving up. Inside the apartment, Lily sat on her mattress, hair hops in her lap. Marcus made her a snack, peanut butter on crackers, all they had left. Lily ate 1 cracker, set it down. Daddy? Marcus looked at her. The other kids are saying mean things about you. Marcus's chest tightened. What kind of things? That you're scary. That their parents said you're not safe. Her voice cracked. But you're not scary. You're my dad. Marcus sat beside her, put his arm around her small shoulders. I know, Liebchen. Why is everyone being so mean? Because they don't understand. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she looked up at him, those dark eyes so much like her mother's. Daddy, if singing makes people feel better, and you're so good at it, why is she trying to make you seem bad? Marcus had no answer. Lily's chin trembled. Doesn't she want her baby to be okay? Marcus pulled her close, felt her cry against his chest, and he realized his daughter understood something that all the adults in this mess had forgotten. That kindness should be met with gratitude. That help should be met with thanks. That saving a child should matter more than pride. But the world didn't work that way. Not when billion-dollar empires were at stake. Across the city, in a gleaming office tower in Midtown, Victoria Ashford sat at the head of a conference table. 12 board members, all of them watching her. The CFO cleared his throat. Victoria, we need to address the optics of your response to this situation. Victoria's fingers tightened around her pen. The optics are fine. Several major investors have reached out with concerns about the tone of the media coverage, about the perception that you're being vindictive. I'm protecting my family. It doesn't look like protection. It looks like retaliation. Victoria's jaw clenched. Are we done? The CFO exchanged glances with the others. For now, Victoria stood, left the boardroom. Her assistant followed her to her office, closed the door. Ms. Ashford, there's been a development. Victoria didn't look up from her phone. What? Your son's nanny, the one you fired on the flight. She quit her position with the replacement family this morning. And? She's been in contact with a journalist, Rachel Cho, freelance, used to be an opera critic. Victoria's head snapped up. What did she tell her? The assistant's face went pale. We don't know yet, but Ms. Cho has been trying to reach you for comment. 2 days later, the article dropped. The nanny texts what Victoria Ashford really said about her son. Rachel Cho. Byline at the top. The story went viral in minutes. Screenshots of text messages. Victoria to her assistant. Victoria to the nanny. Messages sent over the past 6 months. This child is defective. Nothing works. I don't know why I thought I could do this. Biggest mistake of my life. Motherhood is a scam sold to women to keep us out of power. He won't stop crying. I regret everything. The texts were damning, cold, cruel. The image of the supermom CEO shattered completely, replaced by something uglier. A woman who saw her own child as an inconvenience, a mistake. The article included quotes from the fired nanny, about Victoria's treatment of the baby, about her refusal to hold him, about the way she spoke to him when no one was listening, and at the end, a single line that gutted everything Victoria had tried to build. Meanwhile, Marcus Webb, the man Ms. Ashford had detained and publicly humiliated, sang a lullaby to comfort the child his own mother couldn't soothe. Marcus read the article on his phone, sitting in his dark apartment, Lily asleep on her mattress. His inbox was flooding. Interview requests, support messages, people who'd seen the article and wanted to tell him he'd been right all along. He deleted them all, but the damage to Victoria was done. And somewhere in the machinery of her empire, the gears were starting to turn against her. 2 weeks after the nanny texts broke, Marcus sat on his futon in the dark. The eviction countdown was at 15 days. His bank account had $73. He'd applied to 42 jobs, 0 callbacks. The radiator clanked. Lily slept on her mattress, Herr Hops tucked under her arm. Marcus stared at the ceiling, counted the cracks in the plaster. 27. He'd counted them every night for 9 years. His phone buzzed, unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Mr. Webb? My name is David Chen. I run a community music program in Brooklyn. Marcus sat up. His chest tightened. I saw the video from the flight. I also saw what's been happening to you since. I'm calling because I'd like to offer you a position teaching voice to children in underserved communities. I can't. It's unpaid. Just volunteer work. But these are kids who've never had music lessons, who've never been told they have potential. I think you could change that. Marcus's throat closed. He looked at Lily, still sleeping. I appreciate the offer, but I can't risk more exposure. I need to protect my daughter. Chen was quiet for a moment. Mr. Webb, your daughter is watching what you do next. What do you want her to learn? That talent should hide? Or that beauty is worth the cost? Marcus said nothing. His hands were shaking. Think about it, Chen said. You have my number. The call ended. Marcus set the phone down, stared at it. Lily stirred, rolled over. Her eyes opened. She looked at him through the darkness. Daddy? Who was that? No one. Go back to sleep. But Lily sat up, small silhouette against the window, streetlight behind her. You should do it. You don't know what he asked, but you should do it anyway, whatever it is. Marcus's chest ached. How do you know? Because Mommy wouldn't hide. The words hit him like a physical blow. He stared at his daughter, this 7-year-old who understood more than she should. Mommy was brave, Lily said quietly. You told me that. She sang in front of thousands of people. She wasn't scared. She was scared sometimes, but she did it anyway. Lily pulled Herr Hops close. You should too. Marcus couldn't speak. His daughter looked at him with those dark eyes, Anna's eyes, and he realized she was right. Anna had never hidden, not from the stage, not from the world, not even from death when it came for her on that rain-slicked road in Vienna. The phone rang again, different number. Marcus answered. Mr. Webb, this is Elena Rossi. I'm the development director at Carnegie Hall. Marcus's breath caught. There's a cancer research benefit scheduled for 10 days from now. Your wife's cause. A coalition of musicians who knew you both has been organizing it for years, hoping you'd return. Marcus closed his eyes. We'd be honored if you'd perform. Just one song. It would mean everything to the people who loved Anna, who love you. I don't perform anymore. I know. But this isn't about performing. It's about honoring her memory, about showing the world what real love looks like. Marcus's hands gripped the phone. Who else is involved? It's sponsored by several foundations, including the Ashford Foundation. Victoria's name hung in the air. She's the lead sponsor, Elena continued. She can't pull out without confirming the guilt those leaked texts already implied. And she can't attend without facing you. But the benefit happens either way. The question is whether you'll be part of it. Marcus looked at Lily, still watching him, waiting. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. After that, we need to finalize the program. Elena paused. Your wife would want you there, Marcus. You know she would. The call ended. Marcus set the phone down, put his head in his hands. Are you going to do it? Lily's voice was small but steady. I don't know. The lady on the phone said it's for Mommy's thing, the cancer thing. Yes. Then you have to do it. Marcus looked up. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I haven't sung like that in 9 years. Because I'm scared. Because the whole world will be watching. Because the woman who tried to destroy us will be sitting in the front row. Lily climbed off her mattress, walked to the futon, sat beside him. Her small hand found his. Daddy, when you sang to that baby on the plane, you weren't scared. I was terrified. But you did it anyway, because it was the right thing. She leaned against his arm. This is the right thing, too. Marcus pulled her close, felt her warmth, her trust. He thought about Anna, about the way she'd stand in the wings before a performance, hands shaking, breath quick. Then she'd step onto the stage and transform, become something more than fear, more than doubt. She'd want him to sing. Lily pulled away, stood, walked to the corner where they kept the single cardboard box of Anna's things, items too precious to throw away, too painful to display. She opened it, pulled out a concert program, yellowed, creased. Carnegie Hall, May 2014. Anna's name in elegant type. She brought it to Marcus. You should do it for her. Marcus took the program, ran his fingers over Anna's name, remembered that night, the way her voice had filled the hall, the way the audience had stood, the way she'd found him backstage afterward and whispered that she was pregnant, that they were going to have a baby, that everything was perfect. 11 months later, she was gone, but Lily was here, holding his hand, asking him to be brave. Marcus looked at his daughter, at the program, at the phone. He picked it up, called Chen back. I'll do it, the teaching position. When do I start? Chen's voice was warm. Next week. Thank you, Marcus. Marcus ended the call, dialed Elena's number. I'll sing. Elena's breath caught. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just one song, Schubert's Ave Maria, the piece Anna sang at our wedding. Perfect. We'll send the details tomorrow. Marcus hung up, looked at Lily. She was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in 2 weeks. You're right, Liebchen, he said softly. Mommy wouldn't hide, and neither will we. Carnegie Hall smelled like old wood and fresh flowers. Marcus stood in the wings, stage left, close enough to see the empty seats filling with people, far enough that no one could see him yet. His hands were shaking. Lily held one of them, her small fingers wrapped around his, her hops tucked under her other arm. You've got this, Daddy. Marcus looked down at her. 7 years old. Dark curls pulled back with a clip. Wearing the blue dress they'd bought at a second-hand shop in Park Slope. She looked so much like Anna, it hurt. What if I can't do it? You can. You did it on the plane. That was different. How? Marcus didn't have an answer. Maestro Chen appeared beside them, Older man, kind eyes. He'd spent the past week helping Marcus prepare, running through warm-ups, reminding him how to breathe. 5 minutes, Chen said quietly. How are you feeling? Terrified. Good. That means it matters. Out in the hall, the lights dimmed. The murmur of conversation softened. Marcus could see the front row now. Reserved seats, cameras positioned at the edges. And there, surrounded by people in expensive suits, was Victoria Ashford. She wore black, severe lines. Her phone was face down on her lap. Her assistant sat 2 seats away. Board members flanked her on both sides. She looked trapped. A woman in a cage made of her own choices. The concert began. A string quartet played first. Tribute to cancer research pioneers. Beautiful, precise. The audience applauded warmly. Then a soprano Marcus didn't know. Then a cellist who'd lost his mother to the disease. Each performance was a tribute. Each one carried weight. Marcus watched from the wings, his breathing shallow, his palms wet. Lily squeezed his hand. It's almost time. The cellist finished. The audience stood. Applause filled the hall. Then the announcer's voice came over the sound system. Calm, reverent. Ladies and gentlemen, our final performer tonight needs no introduction to those who knew him, to those who followed classical music for the past decade. 9 years ago, we lost one of the greatest voices of our generation. Tonight, for one song, we have him back. Please welcome Marcus Weissman. The applause was immediate, thunderous. People stood before he even appeared. Marcus's legs locked. He couldn't move. Chen put a hand on his shoulder. She's watching, Marcus. Anna, she's watching. Marcus looked at Lily. She nodded. He walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, blinding. He couldn't see individual faces past the 3rd row, just shapes, darkness, the weight of 2,800 people holding their breath. He reached the microphone, didn't speak, didn't introduce himself. The pianist was already seated. A woman Marcus had worked with a decade ago. She met his eyes, nodded once. The opening notes of Schubert's Ave Maria filled the hall. Marcus closed his eyes, took a breath, and sang. His voice emerged quietly at first, gentle. The melody Anna had sung at their wedding, the piece she'd loved above all others. He let it build slowly. Let each note carry the weight of 9 years of silence, 9 years of grief, 9 years of loving a woman who wasn't there. The hall was utterly still. Marcus added the harmonic layers, the Obertonsingen technique that only a handful of people in the world could do. His voice split into 2, then 3, weaving through the melody like threads of gold. In the front row, Victoria sat frozen. She'd come prepared to endure this, to sit through it with dignity, to show the cameras that she was unbothered, unmoved. But she wasn't prepared for this. The beauty of it broke something in her. This man, this warehouse worker she'd had zip-tied and humiliated, was offering the audience something she'd spent $1 billion and couldn't buy. Pure, devastating grace. No bitterness, no revenge. Just love for a woman who'd been gone for 9 years. Victoria's hands gripped the armrests. Her throat tightened. Around her, people were crying. A woman 2 seats down had her face in her hands. A man in the row behind wiped his eyes with his sleeve. Even the board members, cold, calculating men who'd voted on her future 2 days ago, were moved, silent, listening. Marcus sang on. The melody rose and fell, each phrase shaped with the precision of a master, each word in German spoken like a prayer. He wasn't performing. He was grieving, publicly, beautifully, letting the audience witness something private and holy. In the wings, Lily watched. Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. Chen stood beside her. He'd heard Marcus sing before, years ago. But this was different. This was a man who'd lost everything and chosen to sing anyway. The final note hung in the air, sustained. Perfect. Then, silence. Marcus opened his eyes, looked out at the darkness, waiting. The applause started slowly. One person, then 10, then everyone. The audience rose as one, clapping, crying, shouting. The ovation rolled through Carnegie Hall like a wave. It didn't stop, didn't fade. People kept clapping. Some were laughing through their tears. Some couldn't see for crying. Victoria sat perfectly still, surrounded by cameras recording her every reaction. The applause went on. 2 minutes, 5, 8. She couldn't leave, couldn't move. Trapped in the front row while the man she'd tried to destroy received the greatest ovation of his life. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Text from her board chair. 3 words. Meeting tomorrow. Prepare statement. The applause continued. 11 minutes. Marcus stood on the stage, didn't bow, didn't wave. Just stood there, looking at the darkness where he knew Lily was watching. Victoria stood, moved toward the side exit. No one noticed. Everyone was still clapping, still crying. She pushed through the door into the corridor. Her assistant followed. The sound of applause muffled behind them. In the wings, Marcus walked off stage. Lily ran to him, threw her arms around his waist. He knelt down, held her. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it." "Do you think Mommy heard?" Marcus pulled back, looked at his daughter, brushed a tear from her cheek. "Yes, sweetheart, Mommy heard." 6 months after Carnegie Hall, Victoria Ashford sat across from a reporter in a neutral conference room. White walls, no windows, the kind of space designed for damage control. The reporter was young, careful. She'd been vetted by Victoria's remaining PR team. "Ms. Ashford, do you regret how you handled the incident on the plane?" Victoria looked at her hands, folded on the table. No ring, no watch. The trappings of power stripped away piece by piece. "I learned that power is not the same as strength." The reporter waited for more. Victoria offered nothing else. The interview ended. Victoria left through a back entrance. Her car was waiting. Not the SUV with the security team, just a sedan. A driver she didn't know. She'd see her son tomorrow. Supervised visit, 2 hours. A social worker would watch every interaction, document every moment. The empire she'd built was restructured. New leadership, new direction. Her name remained on the letterhead. For now. But the office was someone else's. The decisions were someone else's. The control she'd spent $1 billion accumulating was gone. Across the city, in a converted warehouse in Brooklyn, Marcus Webb stood in front of 12 children, ages 7 to 14. Immigrant kids, foster kids, children who'd never touched a piano or held sheet music. The community center smelled like old wood and fresh paint. Donated instruments lined one wall. A piano, 3 guitars, a violin missing a string. The space was small, but the acoustics were good. Marcus raised his hand. The children fell silent. "Let's try the breathing exercise again." They inhaled together, held it, exhaled slowly. Marcus watched their faces, saw the concentration, the effort, the small miracle of discipline taking root. "Good. Now the scales." They sang, off-key, out of time, beautiful in their chaos. Lily sat in the back corner, doing homework at a folding table. She looked up when the children sang, smiled, went back to her math. Maestro Chen appeared in the doorway, leaned against the frame, watched Marcus work. After 9 years of silence, the man had found his voice again. Not on the world's greatest stages. Here, with children who needed to know they mattered. The class ended. Parents arrived to collect their kids. A mother thanked Marcus in Spanish. He nodded, smiled. His Spanish was basic, but he understood gratitude in any language. The room emptied. Marcus packed up the music sheets. Lily helped. They worked in comfortable silence. "Daddy, are we going to see Mommy tomorrow?" Marcus looked up. Saturday. Their routine. "Yes, Liebchen." Good. They took the subway home. The apartment in Park Slope was small. 1 bedroom. A living room barely big enough for the upright piano someone had donated after the Carnegie performance. But the radiator worked. The windows faced east. Morning light filled the space like a blessing. Lily did her homework at the kitchen table. Marcus made dinner. Pasta. Sauce from a jar. Simple. Enough. After dinner, Lily sat at the piano, practicing, her small fingers finding the keys. She played a simple melody, hesitant, careful. Marcus stood behind her, listened, waited. Try it again. But this time, don't think about the notes. Think about the feeling. Lily tried. Better this time, still imperfect, still learning. Marcus sat beside her on the bench, played the melody with her. Then he added harmony, his voice joining the notes. Low, warm, no longer hidden. Lily stopped playing, looked at him. "That's pretty. Your mother used to play this." "Really?" "Every morning, before you were born." Lily smiled, went back to the keys. They played together, father and daughter. Light from the window streaming across the piano, dust motes dancing in the air, the sound filling the small apartment with something that felt like home. Saturday morning. Rain fell soft against the windows. Marcus and Lily took the train to the cemetery in Queens. They walked the familiar path. Anna's grave was under a maple tree. Simple headstone, her name, her dates, the word beloved. Lily set down fresh flowers, daisies, Anna's favorite. Marcus stood quiet, hands in his pockets. He didn't speak to the stone, didn't believe Anna was here. But Lily needed the ritual, the place to remember. So they came. Lily touched the headstone. "Hi, Mommy. Daddy sang at Carnegie Hall, just like you used to." Marcus's throat tightened. "And I'm learning piano. Daddy says I sound like you." The rain fell gentle on the grass. Marcus pulled up his collar. "Are you happy, Daddy?" The question caught him off guard. He looked at Lily, 7 years old, dark curls wet from the rain. Anna's eyes looking up at him. "What makes you ask that? You smile more now. You used to not smile." Marcus knelt beside her, looked back at the headstone, then at his daughter. "I think Mommy would be proud of us." "Me too." They walked back to the train, stopped for hot chocolate at a diner. Lily got whipped cream, marshmallows. Marcus drank his black. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you miss singing on big stages?" Marcus considered this, thought about Carnegie Hall, the applause, the lights, the weight of expectation. Then he thought about the 12 kids in the warehouse, their off-key voices, their joy at learning something new. "No, Liebchen, I'm exactly where I need to be." Sunday afternoon. Marcus had 3 private students. Sliding scale, pay what you can. A high school kid preparing for college auditions. An older woman who'd always wanted to learn. A man in his 30s recovering from a stroke, relearning how to form words. He taught them in the living room, the piano between them. Each lesson was different. Each student carried their own story, their own reason for wanting to sing. After the last lesson, Marcus stood at the window, looked down at the street. watched people walk by. Ordinary lives. Ordinary moments. Lily joined him, stood beside him. "Daddy? That boy today? The one going to college? He's really good." "He is." "As good as you?" Marcus smiled. "Maybe better. Someday." That evening, Lily practiced at the piano. Marcus corrected her gently, showed her where to place her fingers, how to let the music breathe. She played the melody again. Better now. Confident. Marcus stood behind her. Then he sang. Harmony, his voice wrapping around the notes she played, creating something beautiful together. The light from the window streamed across them. Gold and warm. Father and daughter. Music and memory. A voice no longer hidden. A life rebuilt not on stages or applause, but on something simpler. Something true. Love. Purpose. The courage to offer a gift freely even when it cost everything. And in that small apartment in Park Slope, with rain beginning to fall again outside and a piano filling the room with sound, Marcus Webb understood what his wife had known all along. That true mastery needs no permission. And the greatest act of courage is not in hiding our gifts to protect ourselves, but in offering them freely, even when the cost is everything we've fought to preserve.